Hey guys, it's Harrison and welcome back to Awkward Sports History. Sorry I've been gone for a little bit. I know I haven't put out a video in almost 3 weeks, but school kind of takes away a lot of your video making time, but hey, I'm back and I'm ready to make more content. And since you guys have been patient, I figured it'd be about time I made another hockey video, knowing that my last one was 2 months ago and that was the only one I've made so far, which is kind of surprising because I really like hockey. But I'm going all out this week. I'm even doing a topic that covers 2 teams instead of the usual one for my team videos. I'm just going to cut the chit chat now and let's get into it. Let's get into the awkward history of Atlanta hockey. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe below and hit that little bell on the side so you get notifications for when my videos come out. For our first team, let's go back to 1971. The NHL had just gone through a very rapid rate of expansion and had more than double the number of teams they had in the league in just a 5-year period. Originally, the plan was to, take it easy for a little bit and ease up on the expansion for a couple of years, but the plans changed with the arrival of a very competitive league called the World Hockey Association. The WHA, as it was called, was starting to put teams in other cities that the NHL had not gotten to yet. So the NHL was very hard set on trying to beat the WHA to these other cities. So for the next round of expansion, the NHL picked 2 cities. First, they opted for another team in New York, which became the New York Islanders, and they opted to go south and go put a team in Atlanta. At the time, Atlanta did seem like a very solid pick. It had just gone through a very rapid population boom, and in the prior decade, it had just received 3 sports teams, making it a very safe pick to start expanding into the South. So on that note, I'd like to introduce you to the first Southern hockey team in NHL history, the Atlanta Flames. The Atlanta Flames play at the old Omni Coliseum in Atlanta, which is more known for being the home of the Atlanta Hawks for a few decades. And they had these really honestly kind of solid bright orange uniforms that have a really big flaming A across it. What I also really like about some of these photos that I found is that you can tell how 70s this really is. You have the hair, the mustache, and the fact that a lot of these guys just aren't wearing helmets yet because it's not completely required. The first few years in Atlanta were actually relatively successful. For a team that was just thrown into a southern city, they were averaging between 13,000 and 14,000 fans a game, and they were consistently making the playoffs, which for a new team that's trying to attract fans is a very good thing to have going for them. So if you want to evaluate the first few seasons, you can definitely say they were off to a pretty successful start. Thing is, this team is featured on my channel, which is a pretty good indication that things started to go very wrong. So let's start with the whole part about the team being in the playoffs. They did pretty much make the playoffs every single year they existed. The problem was they were terrible every single time they were in it. Let alone did they never make it out of the first round. Of the 17 playoff games they played, they won a whopping 2. So I guess if it means anything for a lot of those losses, some of them were close games. And as for attendance, while it did have a very solid start over the first few years, it did start to heavily decline. And by their final season, they were a hair over 10,000 fans a game, which in any era is just terrible. The owners slowly began to give up on this team, and they sold them to a group in Calgary. And after the 1980 season, they packed their bags, went north of the border, and became the Calgary Flames, which is what they've been ever since. The biggest change you probably would notice pretty quickly is, while they kept the name Flames, they changed that flaming A to a big flaming C. And occasionally they like to bring out this horse that shoots fire from its nose. It's actually kind of dope, I'm not gonna lie. There are still a couple lasting legacies from the Atlanta Flames. Besides the obvious fact that the team in Calgary is still called the Flames, the flaming A is actually still used to this day. I'm going to show you quickly in a photo right here. If you notice, the alternate captain patch is a flaming A. That is the exact same one that was used as the primary logo back in Atlanta. So they found a way to continue to use that logo and pay homage to their old city. So that about wraps it up for the first hockey team in Atlanta. But like I said, we have 2 teams to cover today, and many of you who tuned in probably came to hear about that second team anyway, so let's get to it. In 1999, the city of Atlanta was given a second chance by the NHL. This was part of a 3-year plan to add 4 new teams to the league. Along with a new team in Atlanta, the NHL added the Nashville Predators in 1998 and the Minnesota Wild and Columbus Blue Jackets in 2000. The team Atlanta got, I present to you, the Thrashers. Just a quick fun fact, the name Thrasher derives from the state bird of Georgia, the brown thrasher. That's your fun fact of the day that's not related to sports if you didn't know that. The Thrashers would get to play in a brand new arena called Phillips Arena, which is pretty much the replacement for the Omni Coliseum. And fun fact about that Phillips Arena, its first event ever there was an Elton John concert, so that's a pretty solid start for the arena. Unfortunately, that Elton John concert would be the best thing that happened at Phillips Arena for a pretty long time because the Atlanta Thrashers did not get off to a very good start. Where do I even begin? For starters, they completely botched their first draft picks. Some of them are now considered some of the biggest draft busts of all time. And also, they lost their first game pretty terribly to the New Jersey Devils 4-1. The Thrashers would finish their first season with a record of 14, 62, and 7, which equates to 39 points in the standings. The team would never be this bad again, but they were never great. From 1999 until the lockout in 2005, the Thrashers never had a winning record, and their best season was 78 points. They did finish in second place that year with 78 points. Problem was they missed the playoffs by over 20 points. If it means anything, the team that finished ahead of them in the standings in first place beat the old Atlanta team in the Stanley Cup Finals. Go Bolts. But I'm not just trying to knock down the Atlanta Thrashers. They did really have some bright spots during those losing years. The big thing was they were really starting to develop a core. They drafted 2 key players in Ilya Kovalchuk and Kari Lehtonen. They traded for a solid center in Mark Savard, and they signed future Hall of Famer Marian Hossa, putting together a really nice solid core to come back to when the lockout ended. And they would actually come back from the lockout pretty strong. In 2006, they finished with 90 points for the first time. They didn't make the playoffs and they finished in third place, but they had a very respectable season. 90 points is nothing to scoff at, really. Following that 90-point season, the Thrashers would continue to get a little bit better. They won the Southeast Division for the first time in their history, which in turn got them to the playoffs for the first time in their history. They would face the New York Rangers in the first round of their first playoff appearance. How'd they do? Well, they got swept out of it. And some of these games were not even close. Turns out that trying to get through Henrik Lundqvist is like trying to drive your car through a brick wall. It's not going to end well. So unfortunately for the Thrashers, this success was not sustainable. Following the 2007 season, they tumbled back down the standings. With the lack of success, attendance began to dry up. And unfortunately, ownership was starting to get a little bit fed up with this team, and they were looking to sell. Unfortunately for Thrashers fans in the city of Atlanta, their priority was not to keep the team in Atlanta, and more trying to make up as much money as possible, especially when they were claiming that they were in $130 million in debt. There were groups in Atlanta trying to buy the Thrashers, but in the end, none of them would be successful in acquiring the team. The winners were a Canadian-based group in the city of Winnipeg. Now, Winnipeg is an interesting choice. They had a team in the past, the Winnipeg Jets, and back in 1996, they had relocated the Phoenix to become the Phoenix Coyotes. And I know what you're probably thinking. That relocation when it comes to attendance really worked out so well, didn't it? So unfortunately, in the end, Atlanta's second chance at having a hockey team became another city's second chance at getting a hockey team. It's honestly kind of crappy, but sometimes you just have to remember that this whole thing is a business. And, well, us fans really don't matter, do we? Following the 2011 season, the Thrashers were packed up and moved over the border to Canada to become the new Winnipeg Jets. The Jets have not really acknowledged the Thrashers at all. As a matter of fact, they're much more interested in looking back at the first Winnipeg Jets team as part of their own history, even though it's, the Coyotes' history. However, the Thrashers have not been forgotten, and they are still living on in one way. There is a really cool Twitter account called @NotThrashers, and it tends to do all kinds of different Thrashers-esque things in regards to stuff going on in the NHL right now, and it's actually pretty funny. Probably my favorite one is pointing out that the Maple Leafs and the Thrashers have both not made it past the first round in a very long time, and the joke is that, the Thrashers don't even exist anymore, and the Maple Leafs still can't even pull it off. But that will do it. That will do it for the awkward history of Atlanta hockey. Again, thank you so much for being patient about my absence. I'm back. Hopefully I'll be making content a little more regularly again. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.